I'm Hannah, 30 years old, and a financial advisor. Last Tuesday started like any other day, but it turned into the worst invasion of my personal space ever. I came home to find boxes stacked in my hallway, furniture shoved around, and my 7-month pregnant sister-in-law, Vanessa, lounging on my couch like she owned it. My father, Walter, had used his emergency key to move her in without asking me. Betrayal stings most when it's from those closest to you. I'm dying to know where you're reading this from. If family has ever trampled your boundaries, thinking they can control your home or life, please like and follow for more. My house isn't just a house, it's a dream James and I built over 6 years of saving and working overtime. We bought our 3-bedroom, 2-bath craftsman-style home in a peaceful neighborhood 18 months ago. The backyard has my little herb and vegetable garden. The kitchen boasts granite countertops and stainless steel appliances we'd longed for. Every inch of this 1,500 square foot home reflects our hard work. When we moved in, giving my dad, Walter, an emergency key made sense. James travels often for work, and I sometimes take multi-day business trips. Walter lives 20 minutes away and could check on the house, water plants, or handle emergencies. At first, he respected our space, only coming over when we asked. My relationship with my in-laws, especially Vanessa, has always been tricky. At 34, she's 2 years older than me and treats James like her kid, not her younger brother. She has opinions on everything, our jobs, even the color of our bedroom walls. When we bought our house, she pushed for neighborhoods near her, ignoring that it would double James's commute. I've noticed a pattern with Vanessa over the 5 years I've been with James. She inserts herself into our decisions, stirs up drama if she doesn't get her way, and plays the victim when called out. Last Christmas, she declared she and Brian would stay with us for 2 weeks in January without asking. When I said we had friends visiting, she cried and told everyone I was shutting her out of the family. Once, she took my car without asking because hers was low on gas. She brought it back empty with coffee spilled on the seat. When I mentioned it, she laughed, saying, "That's what family's for." During our wedding planning, Vanessa meddled in every detail. She swapped our flower arrangements 2 days before the ceremony, thinking hers were better. She even told James my wedding dress was unflattering. Thankfully, he backed me up then. Brian, Vanessa's husband, is a quiet accountant who seems worn out by her behavior. When she makes wild demands or starts conflicts, he tries to redirect her or suggest alternatives but never confronts her directly. This just lets her keep going. My dad, Walter, has his own issues with boundaries. Since Mom passed 10 years ago, he's gotten too involved in my life. Before we bought the house, he'd show up at our apartment unannounced, claiming he was in the neighborhood. Once, while we were on vacation, he replaced our living room light fixture because he thought it was outdated. We came back to find our chandelier gone and a new one installed without our say. Walter also loves giving unsolicited financial advice, even though I'm a financial advisor. He sends me articles on investments and retirement with notes like, "Try this instead of what you're doing." When I remind him I'm qualified, he brushes it off with, "I've managed money longer than you've been alive." He's also invited his friends or extended family to our home without asking. Once, I came home to find him and 3 buddies watching football in our living room. Another time, he brought his brother's family for dinner, giving me just 30 minutes notice, "We'll be there at 6 o'clock. Hope you have enough food." Despite many talks about respecting our privacy, both Walter and Vanessa keep crossing lines. James often feels caught in the middle, torn between his sister and our relationship. As my only living parent, Walter uses guilt to push past my limits, saying things like, "I just want to be in your life," or "family helps each other." I had no idea their oversteps were about to get so much worse. The trouble with Vanessa started 3 weeks ago. 7 months pregnant with her and Brian's first child, a boy named Ethan, her pregnancy was fine medically but strained their marriage. James told me Vanessa's spending had gone wild. She splurged over $3,000 on a high-end nursery set and insisted on redecorating their whole house to be perfect for the baby. Brian, facing pay cuts at work due to a tough economy, finally said no to her spending. The tipping point came when he found out she'd secretly maxed out a new credit card on designer baby clothes. Their fight was huge. James heard from Brian that Vanessa threw a vase at the wall, yelling, "Are you so selfish you want our son to have nothing? To be the only kid with second-rate stuff?" Brian pointed out they were $15,000 in debt with a baby coming and less income. The fight got so bad he said he needed space and left to stay with his friend Martin for a few days, promising to talk when they calmed down. Vanessa spiraled. She called James, sobbing that Brian had abandoned her and their baby. James spent hours on the phone, assuring her Brian just needed time. But she insisted she couldn't stay alone, saying, "What if I fall and no one's there? What if something happens to the baby?" This, despite her healthy pregnancy and single-story home. James suggested she stay with their parents, but she refused, claiming their mom was too controlling. He then mentioned she could stay with us but stressed he'd need to talk to me first. That's when my dad, Walter, got involved. Not wanting to wait, Vanessa called Walter the next day. I later found out she painted a dramatic picture of being abandoned while pregnant with nowhere to go. She lied, saying James offered our home but I was being difficult. Walter, always eager to save the day, took her side without asking me. He called her back that afternoon, saying, "Don't worry about Hannah. I have their emergency key. We don't need her permission. Family helps family, and you need support." My dad, Walter, and Vanessa cooked up a plan. While I was at work, he'd help her move her stuff into our house. James was on a 2-day business trip, so he wouldn't be around to stop them. By the time I got home, Vanessa would be settled, making it tough for me to say no. When I found out, I was furious. Vanessa didn't even try other options. She didn't call her many friends or her sister across town. She didn't attempt to fix things with Brian, who later said he only planned to stay away 2 nights. No, she picked the path that would stir up the most drama and mess with our lives. And my dad went along with it, ignoring my right to decide who stays in my home. The betrayal stung deeply. My father, who should respect me as an adult, and Vanessa, who once again showed she cared more about her wants than my privacy, plotted behind my back. They used an emergency key to force this on me. They didn't think about how it would affect me or my marriage. They didn't consider the chaos of moving a high-maintenance, emotional, pregnant woman into our home without asking. All they cared about was Vanessa's needs, and my feelings didn't matter. Their plan was even worse than I imagined. That Tuesday started normally. I woke at 6:30, made coffee, and got ready for client meetings at my financial firm. James had left for his Chicago business trip the night before and wouldn't be back until late Wednesday. We video chatted before bed, and he mentioned a morning presentation but promised to call at lunch. I got to the office by 8:15, settled at my desk, and worked on reports for an 11 o'clock meeting. The morning flew by. After the meeting, I grabbed lunch at a cafe across the street. As I returned, my phone rang. It was Mrs. Peterson, our 65-year-old neighbor who watches the neighborhood while we're at work. "Hannah, dear," she said, sounding worried, "is everything okay at your house? There's a moving truck in your driveway, and people have been carrying boxes and furniture inside for an hour." My heart sank. "A moving truck? Are you sure it's our house, Mrs. Peterson?" "Yes, I see your dad's car there too. I thought you might be doing renovations, but it looks like someone's moving in." I thanked her and tried calling my dad. No answer. I called James, but he was in his presentation, as expected. Dread growing, I told my boss about a family emergency and left. The 20-minute drive home felt endless, my mind racing with bad possibilities. When I pulled into my driveway, my fears were real. A moving truck sat next to my dad's blue sedan. My front door was propped open with a chair, and I heard voices inside. I walked in to find my hallway stuffed with boxes labeled Vanessa's clothes, baby items, and bedroom stuff. My tidy living room was rearranged for a makeshift bedroom. The coffee table was against the wall, the rug rolled up in a corner, and a fold-out sofa bed took over my seating area. Vanessa stood in the chaos, directing my dad as he hung blackout curtains over my living room windows. She wore leggings and a big t-shirt stretched over her pregnant belly, looking right at home in my upturned space. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger and shock. They both turned, startled. Vanessa recovered first, flashing a casual smile like nothing was wrong. "Oh, Hannah, you're home early. Walter's helping me settle in. Hope you don't mind we moved your coffee table. I need space for the sofa bed until the baby comes." "Settle in? Until the baby comes?" I echoed, barely processing her words. "Vanessa, no one said you could live here, especially not for months." My dad stepped off the ladder, his face defensive yet smug. "Hannah, don't overreact. Vanessa's family and needs help. Brian left her, and she can't be alone right now." "Brian didn't leave her," I shot back, recalling James's words. "They argued, and he's taking a few days. That doesn't give you the right to move her in without asking me." Vanessa's eyes filled with tears, a familiar tactic when she didn't get her way. "I knew you'd act like this. James said I could stay. I've got nowhere else, Hannah. I'm 7 months pregnant. Do you want me homeless?" I took a deep breath, fighting her manipulation. "James might have mentioned it, but he didn't agree to you moving in today without talking to me. You have options, Vanessa, your parents, your sister, your friends. None of them have room," she lied. I knew her sister had a 4-bedroom house with 1 kid. I turned to my dad, the bigger betrayal. "Dad, how could you use the emergency key like this?" "It was for real emergencies, not moving people into my house." Walter crossed his arms, standing firm. "This is an emergency, Hannah. Vanessa needs help. Family helps family. I'm disappointed you're being so selfish." "Selfish?" I repeated, stunned. "It's selfish to want control over my own home? The one James and I worked years to afford?" "This is partly my house too," Walter said, shocking me with his entitlement. "I'm your father. I helped with the down payment. You gave us $5,000 for a $350,000 house," I said, my voice rising. "That doesn't give you the right to decide anything here." Vanessa plopped onto the sofa bed, hand on her belly, looking pained. "Stop shouting. It's bad for the baby. I can't believe you're making a fuss over helping family." I looked at my invaded home, my space filled with her stuff, rearranged without my say. The violation hit like a punch. These two, who should respect me, had schemed behind my back, using an emergency key to change my life. "Both of you, leave now," I said, voice steady. "Vanessa, call Brian or your sister. You can't stay. Dad, give me the key." "I'm not leaving," Vanessa said firmly. "I have nowhere to go, and James said I could stay." "I'm not giving back the key," my dad added. "Not when you're acting irrational. You'll thank me when you calm down." I knew then this wouldn't be easy. They didn't care about my wishes or my home. Hands shaking, I called James, hoping he could at least get through to Vanessa. But the fight was just starting, and it was about to get worse. James called back at 4:30 that afternoon, after his presentation. I'd spent hours fuming in my bedroom while Vanessa and my dad kept unloading her stuff. I explained everything, keeping my voice low so they wouldn't hear. "They did what?" James said, shocked. "I told Vanessa we'd need to talk first. I never said she could move in now, especially without asking you." "She's here," I said bitterly. "With enough stuff for months. Your sister and my dad think they can decide what happens in our home." James went quiet, then sighed. "I'll be home tomorrow night. Try to stay calm until then, okay? We'll fix this when I'm back." His words let me down. I wanted him to back me up, to demand they leave. Instead, he was dodging the issue. So I just accept this for 24 hours? I asked, hurt. It's just one day, Hannah, James said, his tone trying to soothe. Vanessa's pregnant and emotional. Let's not make this bigger than it needs to be. His words hurt. My husband was brushing off a major violation of our home as drama. I hung up, feeling more alone in my anger. When James got home the next evening, things had gotten worse. Vanessa had claimed the bathroom near the living room, her pregnancy creams and vitamins cluttering the counters. She'd rearranged my kitchen cabinets for her specialties and snacks. My dad kept bringing more of her stuff from her house. We slipped into our bedroom for a private talk. James's face showed shock at the takeover. He'd expected a couple of bags, not a full move. This is too much, he admitted, rubbing his head. But she's my sister, Hannah, and pregnant. I can't just kick her out. No one's saying the street, James, I said, keeping my voice low. She has options, her parents, her sister, her friends. Or she could go home and call Brian. That's what should happen. James sat on the bed, torn. I get it, but she's upset. Brian said harsh things about her spending, and she feels abandoned. Can she stay a few days, maybe a week, to sort things out? I was stunned. My husband was okay with this uninvited invasion. So you're on her side? I asked, hurt clear in my voice. After they went behind our backs with the emergency key? I'm not picking sides, James said weakly. I just want a solution that works for everyone. She's family and pregnant. Pregnancy doesn't give her the right to take over our home, I shot back. Family doesn't mean we accept disrespect. We argued for nearly an hour, James stuck between his sister and me. Finally, he agreed Vanessa couldn't stay long-term but wanted to give her a few days to find another place. We left the bedroom and found my dad and Vanessa in the kitchen. My dad was cooking dinner with our food, no permission asked. Vanessa sat at the counter, scrolling her phone. We need to talk, I said firmly. The conversation was maddening. My dad defended his actions, saying he was helping family. He called my boundary concerns petty compared to Vanessa's emergency. Who refuses a pregnant woman in need? He asked, as if I'd suggested abandoning her instead of expecting her to stay elsewhere. Vanessa switched between tears and anger, patting her belly to remind us of her pregnancy. She claimed the stress was bad for the baby, that Brian had abandoned her, not true, and she had nowhere else to go, also a lie. My doctor says I need calm for the baby, she cried. I just need a safe place until Brian comes around. James, softened by her tears, suggested she stay a few days to plan her next move. This made Vanessa bolder. Actually, she said, wiping her tears fast, I'll stay until the baby's born. Our nursery isn't ready, and Brian's unreliable. I need stability. I nearly gasped. Until the baby's born? That's 2 months. No way. See how selfish she is, my dad said to James, ignoring me. Her sister-in-law needs help, and she won't share a corner of this big house. I felt like I was losing my mind. No one saw the real issue. They moved her in without permission, using an emergency key, rearranging my home without my okay. This isn't about helping Vanessa, I said, exhausted. It's about respect. You can't move someone into my house without asking. Family doesn't need permission to help family, my dad repeated, like a mantra. Frustrated and trapped, I gave an ultimatum. Vanessa, you have 24 hours to find somewhere else. This isn't negotiable. My dad's face turned red. That's absurd. She's not leaving. I'll stay too if I have to protect her from your bullying. You're not staying, I snapped. This is my house, not yours. It's James's house too, Vanessa cut in, looking to him. And he wants me to stay, right, James? Caught off guard, James mumbled something about helping but respecting my feelings. His vague reply only fueled Vanessa and my dad. It's settled, Vanessa declared. I'll stay until Ethan's born. Maybe longer, since I'll need help with a newborn. That night was awful. Vanessa took over the living room, blasting reality shows past midnight. My dad stayed until 11, hauling in more of her stuff, including a huge exercise ball she said she needed. Lying next to James, I felt betrayed by him, my dad, and Vanessa. My home's walls seemed to close in, my space and freedom stolen by those who claimed to care. As I drifted into uneasy sleep, I decided tomorrow would change. I wouldn't let this go on, no matter what. The next morning, strange voices in my kitchen woke me. I threw on a robe and found Vanessa had invited her friend Pamela for breakfast. They used my good china, making a mess of pancakes, fruit, and yogurt parfaits across my counters. Good morning, Vanessa chirped, acting normal. Hope we didn't wake you. Pamela's helping me organize. I made enough breakfast for all. I froze, stunned. Less than 48 hours after moving in uninvited, Vanessa was hosting guests, using my things like they were hers. Vanessa, I said, holding back anger, you can't invite people over without asking. This isn't your house. Pamela looked uneasy. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Pamela's helping set up a nursery corner in the living room. We won't bother you. Nursery corner? I said, alarm rising. You're not staying long enough for that. We'll see, she muttered, turning to Pamela. I went to get ready for work, my mind spinning. This wasn't just a short stay anymore. Vanessa was planning to settle in for good. When I returned to the kitchen, my dad was there with another box. He barely looked at me, heading to the living room where he and Pamela discussed placing Vanessa's rocking chair. Dad, I called, following. We need to talk. He stepped into the hallway, already defensive. I want my emergency key back, I said firmly. You broke our trust by using it to move Vanessa in. I'm keeping it, he said instantly. You're being unreasonable about family. The key stays with me for Vanessa's needs while you and James are at work. His refusal shocked me. That key was for emergencies, not for you to come and go or move people in. You don't get what family means, he said, condescending. Back in my day, we helped each other without all your selfish boundary talk. It's not selfish, I said, voice rising. It's about respect. You don't move into someone's home without permission, family or not. Our argument grew loud, pulling Vanessa over. She waddled in, hand on her back, cradling her belly. Why are you yelling at Walter? She demanded. He's been so helpful during this awful time. Unlike some, he cares about me and my baby. This isn't about caring, I said, frustration boiling. It's about you two moving you in without my okay. That's never all right. I had nowhere else, Vanessa insisted, her voice dramatic. What kind of person turns away a pregnant woman whose husband left her? Brian didn't leave you, I corrected again. And you have other options, your parents, your sister, your friends. None of them have space, she lied. Your sister has a 4-bedroom house with 1 kid, I said. She uses those rooms for her business, Vanessa shot back. And her house has stairs, which is risky for me. Her excuses were endless and flimsy. I faced my dad, who clearly disapproved of me. Dad, last time I asked nicely. Give me the key. No, he said coldly. I don't trust your decisions. You're being cruel to Vanessa in her time of need. His words broke something in me. I was the villain for wanting control of my home, for expecting respect. Fine, I said, voice icy. You're both trespassing. Leave today. Vanessa's eyes widened dramatically. You can't kick out a pregnant woman. James won't let you. James and I will talk tonight, I said firmly. But my stance is clear. You moved in without my okay, and I don't agree with it. My dad stepped closer, his face stern. Keep this up, Hannah, and I'll tell the whole family how you treated your pregnant sister-in-law. How you chose your selfish need for privacy over helping family. Is that what you want? His threat was obvious: obey or be shunned. It was unfair and manipulative, but not shocking given his actions. I left for work, too angry to keep arguing without losing it. All day, Vanessa texted me lists of things she wanted me to grab, like I was her personal errand runner. My dad sent articles about supporting family during pregnancy, as if that excused their behavior. When I got home that evening, I found two shocking things. First, in my home office, I saw a list in Vanessa's handwriting: baby registry items to order, with furniture and clothes for a nursery at Hannah's house. Second, my key didn't work in the back door. My dad had changed the lock without telling me. When I confronted him, he shrugged and said he'd upgraded security and would give me the new key when you're reasonable about Vanessa. It hit me hard. This wasn't just about helping her. It was about control. They were taking over my home, making changes without my say, and setting up a situation where they called the shots. I found James in our bedroom, just back from work. He looked exhausted as I told him everything. They changed our lock, James, I said, still in disbelief. And Vanessa's planning a full nursery here. She's not leaving. James rubbed his face. This is too much, he admitted. I was okay with helping her short term, but they're way out of line. What do we do? I asked, relieved he finally saw how serious this was. I'll talk to Vanessa and your dad tonight, he promised. This has to stop. But the talk went badly. When James tried setting boundaries, Vanessa cried, saying stress could harm the baby. My dad accused him of being under my control and abandoning his sister. Things escalated until Vanessa clutched her belly, claiming contractions, shutting down the conversation. The contractions vanished once James agreed to talk later, showing her manipulation. In bed that night, I knew we'd hit a breaking point. Talking hadn't worked. They ignored our boundaries. My home was hijacked, with locks I couldn't use and a nursery planned in my living room. This won't get better, I whispered to James in the dark. They don't care about our wishes or our home. What can we do? He asked, sounding defeated. I can't physically throw out my pregnant sister. I stayed silent for a moment. There's one option we haven't tried, I said. In that moment, I made a choice that would change everything. The next morning, after James left for work and my dad was at his place, I made a call I never thought I'd make. Hands shaking, I dialed the non-emergency police line and explained. My dad used an emergency key to move my sister-in-law into my home without permission, I said. I've asked them to leave, but they won't. He even changed the lock without giving me the key. The officer asked questions. Was my name on the deed? Yes, with James's. Did I clearly say they couldn't stay? Yes, many times. Was I scared for my safety? Not physically, but my home and privacy were violated. This sounds like trespassing with civil elements, the officer said. We can send officers to remove them. Do you want that? I took a deep breath and said yes, setting it for that afternoon when Vanessa and my dad would be there. I didn't tell James. I knew he'd try to stop me, torn between his sister and me. But this was beyond family drama. It was about my right to feel safe in my home. At 3:30, 2 officers arrived. I met them outside, showing my ID and proof I owned the house. I explained everything again, including the changed lock and my dad's refusal to return the key. Inside, Vanessa was napping on the sofa bed, and my dad was in the kitchen making a snack. Their faces went from shock to anger when they saw the officers. What's this? My dad demanded, stepping forward. Why are the police here? "You're on this property without permission," an officer said calmly. "The homeowners asked you to leave, and you refused. Is that right?" "This is absurd," my dad sputtered. "I'm her father, and she's her pregnant sister-in-law." "Family doesn't override property rights," the officer said. "If they've asked you to leave, it's trespassing." Vanessa stood, her face full of dramatic outrage. "She can't kick me out. I'm pregnant with nowhere to go. James said I could stay." "Is James your husband?" the second officer asked me. "Yes," I said. "He's at work." "This is a family matter," my dad cut in, moving closer. "You can't interfere." "We can when laws are broken," the officer replied. "Gather your things and leave as requested." "I'm not leaving," my dad said, crossing his arms. "Call James. He'll clear this up." The officers glanced at each other. "Sir, leave voluntarily, or we'll arrest you for trespassing," one warned. "Arrest?" my dad laughed. "You'd arrest a 64-year-old for helping his pregnant daughter-in-law? The media will eat that up." It unfolded like a slow-motion nightmare. My dad kept refusing, getting louder and angrier. After multiple warnings, he touched an officer's arm to make a point. They had to handcuff him. "Walter Sanders, you're under arrest for trespassing and resisting an officer," the officer said, reading his rights. Vanessa screamed, clutching her belly. "You're stressing my baby. How could you do this to your dad, Hannah?" "To your nephew?" "Ma'am, do you need an ambulance?" the second officer asked. "No," she snapped, dropping the act briefly. "Stop arresting Walter and leave us alone." "Then gather your essentials and leave," the officer said firmly. "You can get the rest later with agreement." As they led my dad to the police car, he yelled, "You'll regret this, Hannah. This isn't what family does." Vanessa grabbed her purse and phone, hissing, "James will hear about this. Everyone will know you had your dad arrested and threw me out." "You have other places to go," I said, steady despite my turmoil. "This was your choice." The officers ensured Vanessa left calmly, suggesting she call someone to pick her up. They advised me to change the locks again and documented everything for future issues. After they left, I sat on my couch in the quiet house, trembling from adrenaline and emotion. I'd had my own father arrested. It was a line I never thought I'd cross, but it was the only option left. I called James right away to explain before he heard it elsewhere. He was shocked and angry. "You got my sister and your dad removed by police without telling me?" he asked. "Hannah, how could you decide that alone?" "Because you weren't deciding with me," I said, my voice cracking. "You kept compromising with people who didn't respect our boundaries." "They changed our locks, James. They're planning a nursery. This wouldn't stop without drastic steps." James went quiet, then sighed. "I get why you did it," he said finally. "But this will hurt our family ties badly." He was right. Within hours, my phone buzzed with angry messages from both sides of the family. James's parents called, livid that I'd kicked their pregnant daughter out. My aunts and cousins were shocked I had my dad arrested. Even Brian, Vanessa's husband, called, upset I'd stressed his wife during her pregnancy. The story they spread was a twisted, one-sided tale. Cruel Hannah had her elderly dad arrested for helping his pregnant sister-in-law who had nowhere to go. They skipped the truth that they'd invaded my home without permission, refused to leave despite my pleas, and changed my locks without a word to me. Their version painted me as the heartless villain, erasing the facts to fit their narrative. James came home early, and we sat down for a raw, heart-wrenching talk about the chaos and what came next. For the first time, he owned his role in it. "I tried too hard to please everyone," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I should have been tougher with Vanessa from the start. I wanted to be a good brother, but I let you down as a husband. I'm so sorry, Hannah." His apology was a small comfort, but the sting of betrayal lingered. That night, he called Brian, Vanessa's husband, and laid out our side, including details she'd likely buried. Brian's response surprised me. "I had no idea they moved her in without your consent," he said, sounding genuinely shocked. "Vanessa claimed you invited her, then flipped. I should have asked more questions." Brian explained he'd only planned to stay away 2 nights to cool off after their argument. He was already heading home when he heard Vanessa was evicted. He promised to pick up her belongings the next day and confirmed she'd stay with him moving forward. My dad spent 24 hours in holding before being released. He refused to talk to me, sending just one cold text, "Hope you're satisfied. This isn't how I raised you." His words cut deep, but they also fueled my determination to protect my space. The family fallout was brutal and isolating. James and I were shunned, labeled as heartless for defending our home. It was a painful lesson. Standing up for yourself can cost you dearly, especially when family twists the story to make you the bad guy. That first week after my dad's arrest was relentless. My phone buzzed constantly with calls and messages from relatives, their voices dripping with anger or disappointment. James's mom cut me off completely, sending curt texts to him that pointedly left me out. My dad stayed silent, but my aunt relayed that he was telling everyone about his ungrateful daughter who had him arrested for helping family. Vanessa, now back with Brian, spun her ordeal into a dramatic saga of victimhood. James's cousin, one of the few who stayed neutral, told us she claimed I'd threatened her and her unborn baby, a blatant lie that spread like wildfire among those already on her side. The betrayal was familiar, but it hurt all the same. The stress seeped into our marriage, creating a quiet tension. Though James supported my decision, he moved to the guest room, saying he needed space to process the mess. Some nights, I cried alone, wondering if protecting our boundaries had cost me my husband and my family. The weight of it felt crushing, like I was losing everything I'd fought for. I knew I couldn't carry this alone, so I sought out Dr. Maxwell, a therapist specializing in family dynamics. She offered clarity I desperately needed. "This wasn't just a disagreement," she said. "Your dad and sister-in-law used manipulation and control, changing locks, ignoring your rights. Your response, though drastic, came after trying every other option." With her guidance, I began untangling the knot of emotions: guilt from my dad's arrest, rage at the invasion of my home, pain from being vilified, and fear that I'd lost key relationships forever. Therapy became my lifeline, helping me process the trauma and rebuild my sense of self-worth. 3 weeks later, James and I had a pivotal talk on our back porch. We sipped tea, the cool evening air calming our nerves. "I was upset you called the police without me," he admitted. "But I've thought it over. You tried everything: talking, reasoning, ultimatums. They wouldn't budge. We had no choice." "I still feel horrible," I confessed, my throat tight. "I never wanted to have my dad arrested." "You gave them every chance to leave," James said, squeezing my hand. "What else could we do? Let them take over our home forever?" That conversation marked a turning point. James moved back to our bedroom, and we began restoring our home's safety. We replaced every lock, installed a state-of-the-art security system, and set strict family rules: no one gets keys, visits require an invitation, and stay requests need both our approval after thorough discussion. 2 months later, Vanessa gave birth to a healthy boy, Ethan. Despite the tension, James visited his nephew in the hospital. I stayed home, knowing my presence would spark drama during a joyful moment. He showed me photos of the baby, tiny, with Brian's dark hair and Vanessa's button nose. "She asked if you'd visit," James said cautiously. "What did you tell her?" I asked, bracing myself. "That it depends on her taking responsibility for what happened and apologizing," he replied. Vanessa's defensive response was no surprise, but it cracked open a small window for possible reconciliation. It wasn't much, but it was a start. My dad was a tougher case. It took 6 months for him to agree to meet, with my aunt mediating at a quiet coffee shop. The tension was thick as we sat down. "I'm not apologizing," he said stiffly. What you did was unforgivable. I'm not here for an apology, I said, keeping calm despite my racing heart. You're my dad, and I want a path forward, even if it's messy. The talk was raw and painful. He clung to his belief that family help outweighs selfish privacy concerns. I explained how his actions wounded me. Using that key to move Vanessa in without asking told me my home and feelings didn't matter, I said. Changing my locks without giving me a key stole my security. Can you see how that hurt? For the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. I didn't mean to make you feel unsafe, he said slowly. I thought you were just being difficult about Vanessa. It was never about refusing help, I said. It was about you not respecting me enough to ask. You treated me like a child, not an adult who owns her home. We didn't resolve everything that day or in the talks that followed. But over time, he began to admit he'd overstepped, even if he still believed his intentions were good. 6 months later, he returned the emergency key he'd kept. I still think family helps family, he said, placing it on the table. But I see now help shouldn't be forced. It was the closest to an apology I'd get, and I accepted it. Vanessa and I remained distant but civil. Her son's birth shifted her focus, calming her dramatic tendencies. At his christening, I met my nephew. She was polite but kept her distance. Slowly, we built a cautious relationship grounded in clear boundaries and limited contact. The most profound change was within me. This ordeal taught me the power of holding firm boundaries, even with those I love most. I found strength in standing up, despite the anger and judgment from others. I learned that true family support is rooted in respect and consent, not obligation or manipulation. James and I emerged stronger, our communication sharper and our partnership tighter. We became a united front, protecting our home and refusing to let guilt or drama sway us. Regular check-ins ensured we stayed aligned on what mattered most to us. A year after that terrible Tuesday when I came home to find my space invaded, I see it all clearly. The experience was painful and disruptive, but it forced me to redefine how I engage with family and value myself. I no longer apologize for my boundaries or feel guilty for protecting my peace. Reflecting on that time, I realize it was about more than reclaiming my home, it was about reclaiming my voice. I learned to prioritize my well-being and my marriage over others' expectations, even those of family. The cost was steep, strained relationships, emotional scars, but the freedom to live authentically was worth it. Sharing my story online became a lifeline. Connecting with others who'd faced similar boundary violations reminded me I wasn't alone. Their messages of support gave me courage to keep going, even when family turned their backs. It was a reminder that standing up for yourself resonates with many, creating a community of understanding. Rebuilding with my dad was a slow, delicate process. Our early conversations were awkward, often limited to safe topics like his gardening projects or my work. He'd occasionally slip into old habits, offering unsolicited advice, but I'd gently reinforce our boundaries, and he'd back off. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Vanessa changed after Ethan's birth. Motherhood seemed to ground her, though her flair for drama never fully vanished. We kept contact minimal, mostly through James, but I treasured moments with my nephew. Watching him grow, his tiny hands reaching for toys, reminded me that healing was possible, even if it was gradual and imperfect. Our home became our sanctuary again. James and I spent weekends tending our garden, planting new herbs and vegetables. We cooked together in our reclaimed kitchen, savoring the simple joy of a shared meal. Hosting friends for small, laughter-filled dinners felt like a triumph, a reclaiming of our space after so much turmoil. Therapy remained a cornerstone for me. Dr. Maxwell helped me refine my boundaries and spot red flags in family interactions. She taught me to respond without guilt, empowering me to stay firm even when faced with pushback. Her support was crucial in navigating the lingering fallout and rebuilding my confidence. As time passed, some family members softened. A few reached out, curious about my side after the initial shock faded. I shared my truth calmly, not to win them over but to stand in it. Some apologized for judging too quickly, and those small gestures meant more than I expected. It showed me that time could heal, even if it didn't erase the past. The experience also deepened my appreciation for James. His growth, from hesitating to confront his sister to standing firmly by my side, showed his commitment to our marriage. We learned to face challenges as a team, discussing everything from small decisions to major boundaries. Our marriage wasn't flawless, but it was stronger for it. I found unexpected joy in the small victories. Planting a new basil plant, laughing over a spilled sauce in the kitchen, or simply sitting quietly with James, these moments felt sacred after what we'd endured. They reminded me why we'd fought so hard to protect our space and our peace. This crisis forced me to grow in ways I never anticipated. It wasn't just about evicting uninvited guests, it was about claiming my right to exist on my own terms. The scars remain, but they're proof of my resilience. I'm no longer the woman who doubts her worth when family pushes back, I'm the one who stands firm, unapologetically. Today, I'm at peace with how it all unfolded. The pain of that year lingers, but it's overshadowed by the strength I gained. I've learned that love doesn't mean sacrificing your boundaries, it means honoring them, for yourself and those you care about. My home is mine again, and so is my sense of self. Have you ever had to take bold steps to protect your space? How did you handle family who crossed your lines? Drop your stories in the comments, I'd love to hear them. Like this if you've stood up to family pressure and held your ground, and follow for more on navigating messy family dynamics. Thanks for listening to my journey. Loving family doesn't mean letting them walk all over you.